And welcome to another Teacher Talks tonight. Tonight we are going to have our 78th session. And tonight we are going to England. Yes, our guest is going to be from England tonight. And our guest is really the famous for and about his studies and his webinars and his education and the things that he has done so far. And most of you know him very well, and probably you have had a chance to join his webinars or seminars, or at least you have a chance to get a kind of a course from him. And he is also a very important person for ELT world. And he is Thom Kiddle, director of NILE, which is Norwich Institute for Language Education. He is going to be with us. And let me invite him, and then we are going to start our live session with him. There he is. When he comes, we are going to start. I have invited him, and let me invite him again. Yes,
Hi.
there he is.
There we are.
Yes,
You've guided
hello.
me through it, Volkan, successfully. Thank you.
Yeah, we have done it. It's great. And it's really great to see you, Thom, here. It's really great honor to have you here. And before we starting our live session, I would like to say thank you very much to accept my invitation to Teacher Talks. It's a really great honor to have you in our live session tonight. And which is actually, it's not a night over there. It's like evening, like 6 around, something like that. Here is 9. But it's really wonderful to have you here, Thom.
Thank you, Volkan. Thank you so much for the invitation. I think I'm number 78 or 79
Exactly.
in your Teacher Talk series. So what a pleasure to be invited. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's really great. And I know that we are all busy and you're very busy. So if you are ready, we can start our live session.
Yes, please.
All right,
hit me with your questions.
And I know about you, Thom, but maybe our listeners would like to know about you. So can you tell us about yourself, please, and a bit about your precious experiences too?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, so I'm here based in Norwich, which is in the east of England. You've already given me a lovely introduction about some of the work I do with Norwich Institute for Language Education, where I'm the director. So I've been here for 10 years after we've got a peripatetic English teacher's journey, starting out in the UK and then in Portugal, and then in Thailand, then in Australia, and then in Chile. And I moved from Chile back to the UK about 10 years ago. And since then, I've been working for NILE and involved in lots of amazing projects. I've had the pleasure to be invited to Turkey many times, and I think many familiar names or Instagram handles on this call. So a pleasure to be back virtually. And yeah, had a fantastic opportunity to be involved not just with NILE projects, but also with Equals, the International Quality Assurance Association, and with Aqueduto, the Association for Quality Education and Training Online, both quality assurance associations I'm very closely involved with. Mm-hmm. And along the way, I've done my Cambridge Delta and a master's in language testing at Lancaster University. And now I work on all aspects of NILE business, from being in the classroom as a teacher trainer through to project management and business development and finance and
Wow.
all these exciting aspects of the job. I'm very lucky to have kind of ended up here in Norwich.
I see. Thank you very much. It's really great information about you, Thom. Thank you very much. I know that you have a lots of experiences in your own education and of course in the LT world. So what was or were your turning point or points in your own education?
It's a good question. I think it's interesting to think about turning points, and certainly one of the biggest ones was when I was in my undergraduate studies at university. I went to the University of Warwick, and I really chose the program because the first term of the third year we got to travel and live in another country. So I was in a Renaissance history program, nothing to do with English language, in Venice for 3 months, and having a wonderful time, but really didn't know what to do with my my career, my future. Lots of my colleagues on the course were doing graduate training things for investment banks, and well, that's not for me. And then someone in a bar one night said, a friend of mine has done a TEFL course and is living in Portugal and going to the beach in the days and teaching students in the evening. Well, that sounds like a more my kind of post-university activity. So that was my introduction to the world of TEFL, and I followed that path. And so that turning point there, when I understood that there was an opportunity to live and work overseas, was probably the most critical turning point. And then, of course, every new country that I've been lucky enough to travel to work in has been a turning point, culturally, developmentally, and I've always had the idea that you should try and practice what you preach. And so this kind of continuing professional development has meant that I've done a Delta when I was working with the British Council in Thailand, and that was really transformational in terms of my understanding of what teaching and learning was about, and my role as a teacher, and kind of stopped it being about me and made me think about the students properly. And then kind of thrown into the deep end in a project at a university in Chile, and that led me to realize, well, I've got quite a lot of experience here, but I haven't got the practical, the theoretical underpinnings to my practice, and that led me to do a master's degree at University of Lancaster, and that was very transformational as well, a real turning point, because it kind of took me into the niche world of language testing rather than language teaching, which I've been in previously. So that was a big turning point, and really, I think, led to me being here at NILE now.
I see. All right then. Okay, thank you very much about this. How can I say, about the memory that you share with us about your turning points, Tom. All right. So, can I move? My next question.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a question there. Is my mic still working? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you clearly, but maybe I don't know. I can hear you clearly, but I think they can't. Some Mert says, I think about. Can you hear us? Great. Okay. Can you hear us clearly?
I can hear you fine, but is my mic working okay?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. All right.
Great.
And so I would like to move to another question about another point. Like, we all know that you have a huge experience about teaching and learning and ELT world. So when you think about all these experiences, what is your philosophy of teaching?
Yeah, what a big question, Volkan, right at the start of this call. I mean, a philosophy of teaching, I guess, if I have a philosophy, it's that it's easy to lose the language side of English language teaching. And to be honest, my philosophy revolves around keeping the language side of language teaching as prominent as possible. I think it's very easy to fall into the tempting space of giving students opportunities to practice their skills, setting up speaking activities, giving them writing tasks, giving listening practice, giving reading activities, doing grammar lessons or vocabulary lessons, but actually feeling the reward from developing your students' language awareness and language understanding, not on the level of, I know that this is a noun and this is a verb and this is an adjective, but really understanding how language fits together and how language becomes a vehicle of expression, and how the choices we make as a speaker allows our listeners to listen between the lines, or our readers to read between the lines, and how much of nuance and subtlety there is in language itself. So there's a Confucius quote, which is a common man marvels at the amazing, but a wise man marvels at the commonplace. And I think that means that, you know, really understanding how the language lives and breathes around us, and how the minor changes in language make a difference to the way we're perceived, the way we create our identity. I think helping teachers help learners to really look at text and mine text for good language, for reusable language, to personalize the language that you read and listen to and make it your own. That kind of language awareness is the philosophy behind my my approach to teaching.
I see. Oh, I see. It's a really great philosophy to listen it from you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Thom. Would you like to add anything else, or can I move to another question?
Yes, please. You're in control here, Volkan.
Okay then. By the way, all right. Thank you very much about it. If you have any questions, just let me remind you, if you have any question to Thom, please write your questions into the question part so I can easily direct your question to him. But if you write them in the comment part, sometimes we can miss that question because I'm listening to him and Thom is talking, so it's not easy to follow the both sides. But if you write your questions into the question part, I can easily divert them to Thom. All right, thank you. So thank you very much for the philosophy that you explained to us. So my next question is about the company that you work now, which is NILE. NILE is a very big language institute for language education in England. So I would like to, and also I'm sure that our listeners would like to know about it. So can you tell us about NILE, Norwich Institute for Language Education?
Yeah, thank you. It's so many of the people listening will probably also know the founder of NILE, Dave Allen. So he started NILE 26 years ago now with this, the idea that there was a space and a need for a high quality institute that focused on language teachers, not exclusively language learners, but really focusing all of our activity on language language teachers and language education professionals. So NILE really works with teachers of language, teachers who teach their subject through English, and teachers of other languages as well. So all of our students are teachers, and we work with teachers truly globally around the world, over 70 countries who've been with us in projects either in Norwich or in their own countries. Wow. And since we launched NILE Online, our online teacher development organization 8 years ago, that's increased the range of countries and teachers we've worked with. And so we do everything Wonderful. From professional development courses for teachers in pre-primary education through to teachers in tertiary and adult education, across a whole range of things like materials development, testing and assessment, content and language integrated learning, how to become a teacher trainer, how to develop as a teacher trainer and become a trainer, and everything from pre-service initial training courses like the Cambridge CELTA through to our own master's program, which is, I think, one of the largest masters in TESOL programs in the UK. We have about 250 students on it at the moment. And so I have this fantastic opportunity to work with teachers from around the world and really meaningful projects, really helping teachers reach their students, support their students, and everything from very low resource contexts to very technologically advanced contexts. It's an absolute pleasure to be involved with an organization that's able to be innovative and also have such a big reach. And I know there are colleagues here spanning the world, colleagues in Turkey, but also colleagues in Argentina. Hi, Susan, who have been part of that NILE journey over the last 26 years.
I see. Thank you very much, Thom, about this information. So actually, I was going to ask you another question about the support that you give. You have already mentioned them, some of them. But let me ask you the question. If you like to add anything else to the question, so you can add something. My next question is here: what support does NILE provide to the teachers and students? And also, can everybody become a member of NILE? So what should they do about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, it's a private language teaching institute. So there are paid courses, paid online courses, paid open enrollment courses, which we hold in the summer in Norwich for individuals. Now in our new partnership ventures also in Malta at ESE and in Galway on the west coast of Ireland at Bridge Mills Language Centre. So those are possibilities for teachers to study face-to-face with us. And we also do a lot of work with teachers who come as part of closed groups, either sent by their university or Ministry of Education or one of the ELT publishers. But we also do an awful lot of work and generate content and support that's free to access. That could be our webinar series, our NILE Insights panel discussions. The next one's coming up on December the 2nd on bilingualism. And those are free to access for anybody and in an online format. But I think the thing I'm most proud about in terms of the support we're able to give for free is the NILE membership area. And the NILE membership area is a web-based resource. You need to sign up as a member, but it's 100% free. All you need is your email address to register on the platform, and that's through our nile-elt.com website. And then you access the members area, and the members area has dozens of resources from all of our webinars, a webinar library, to a podcast series, to teaching ideas cards, teacher training ideas cards, a special CEFR tool which I've developed, linguistic landscape photos, how language is used around Norwich, a text analyzer tool, just a real wealth of resources for language teachers. And it's all 100% free, and it's curated and created by the NILE team. And that's, I think that gives it a level of quality assurance which we're very proud of. All of our trainers and people who work with and for NILE, highly experienced teachers and trainers, and so bringing all that together in one place has been a real sense of giving something back to teachers who otherwise wouldn't be able to come and study with us in Norwich, Galway or Malta, or in our online programs.
I see. Thank you very much for this useful information, Thom. Thank you very much. So there is a question. Let me look at it. Let me show you the question. Here is can you see it? What ELT books published recently would you recommend? Olga from Russia.
Yeah, hi Olga. So there's so much around at the minute. We're going to come on to some book recommendations a little bit further in the questions you want to ask me, I think, Volkan. But obviously there's a lot of work at the moment which is focused on helping teachers cope with the emergency response to the pandemic, and there's a lot of newly published books on how to teach online, how to support learners learning online. I guess I should give a shout out to the Routledge Handbook for Language Teacher Education, which I have a chapter in, which is a very recent publication. A new issue of Developing Language Teaching Materials by Brian Tomlinson, which is coming out next year, which I have a chapter in. And I think also to kind of stay alive to the Delta Publishing series, the output from the Delta Publishing series is something I think is really impressive, and also to stay on top of the curated blogs. We do a lot for the Advancing Learning blog of Macmillan Education, another of our partners. So there are new articles coming out through that series, through the One Stop English series, which I think really advance in real time almost, as obviously the production process of generating a book and it can take several years, but being able to kind of be more up to date with those formal blog series, I think is really valuable as well.
I see. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for Tom for the answer. All right, and there is another question. Is I think Kubra is asking: is it possible to be an English teacher without CELTA? Because I studied English language and literature, and I wonder if yes or not. Thanks. By the way, it's about, I think, working in Europe or England as an English teacher. I didn't understand the point, but the question is like this.
Yeah, it's a question I get asked quite a lot, particularly at NILE, and I think the answer is definitely yes. A CELTA doesn't bestow some magical powers on you. It's an intensive, usually 4-week intensive full-time course that the qualification itself is very powerful because it has this credibility and this value in the ELT world. But there are also many criticisms of the fact that it is so intensive and can only possibly give you an initial sense of what it means to be a good language teacher and to be able to help support your learners. So ideally, there would be some kind of qualification which shows that you have taken the time to look at the field of English language teaching, that your own teaching practice has been formally observed and you've had feedback on that, but that also you're committed to CPD, to continuing professional development. And that's as much part of a teacher's development in their career as any initial pre-service qualification could ever be. I get a little bit confused sometimes because CPD is often used around, and some people talk about CPD as continuous professional development. Now, I don't think the C stands for continuous. I think it's important that we see that the C stands for continuing professional development, which means it's part of that lifelong learning journey. It doesn't mean you have to constantly being developing yourself. It means allowing time for consolidation of your learning and reflecting on what you're learning rather than just constantly innovating with new courses. But part of that continuing professional development may be self-guided, self-directed. It may be among your peers in the institution you work at. It may be more formal on a course like the ones we run at NILE. It may be another qualification, kind of a diploma level qualification or a master's level qualification. But being a reflective teacher and learning from others within your institution and learning from your own classroom experience is going to give you far more value as a teacher than any short course could ever do. Having said that, we work in a world where qualifications are highly valued and highly respected and are often a kind of a passport to employment. And I think it is important if you do want to take a TEFL course that you consider courses with the formal recognition, the alignment to quality standards frameworks such as CELTA or Trinity's TESOL program, because they do have value if you're in the international job market. And certainly there are a lot of courses out there that are kind of, study in your own time, become a teacher in 10 hours, which have limited value other than just to open your eyes to what the possibilities are, I think.
I see. Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you, really, about the answer of the question. Okay, so let's move to my question. Okay, so I know that when you think about your experience in teaching, what aspects of your teaching have changed by gaining experience in teaching?
Yeah, I mean, I think that another lovely question. Well, part of being able to answer the question is being a reflective teacher and being able to look back at your lessons, your past year of classroom practice, your past 10 years of classroom practice in a reflective way, and actually thinking, what have I learned and how has my teaching changed, and which of those changes are positive and which of those are old habits that probably I wouldn't do if I thought about them. One of the big changes, I think, for me was a moving from understanding what I was doing to understanding why I was doing it. And I think for the first 3, 4, 5 years of my teaching career, I got increasingly good at the what, and thinking, well, I've got great activities for that, and I really know how to teach that grammar point, or I know what will work with this class for a warmer or a stir or a settler, or all these activities. And actually, it was a formal continuing professional development course that forced me to actually think, well, why am I doing that? Why do I want to use that activity with that group of learners? Why do I know that activity will work in that interaction pattern? Why do I put this activity before this activity? Could I switch that around? And why would I do it that way? And so actually being able to answer the question why was really a real moment of change for me. And I think that enabled me to use my experience to change my teaching. And thinking, okay, well, am I happy with my own answer to the question why? Or can I do something different next time? And have I got a rationale for doing that? Is there a reason why I'm making that change? And I think that really changed me, and I guess made me see my role as a teacher far more professionally than something that I was doing because I felt I was good at it. I understood kind of why and what made the difference between effective teaching and just giving practice activities. And then the other thing that I'd really highlight is I think I've got a lot of good ideas for teaching, and I'm not ashamed to say that almost all of them are stolen from other teachers. One of the most important things of gaining experience is watching other teachers teach. You learn so much from peer observation. You learn to reflect on the things that you do, and having those eyes, the Johari window, where you can see different aspects of teaching, and you can see yourself mirrored in other teachers. You pick up ideas, you pick up classroom techniques, you pick up awarenesses of your own bad habits reflected in others, and you pick up really great ideas for dealing with language in different ways. I think it's again a trap that teachers can fall into, is they tend to teach either how they've been taught or how they would like to learn if they were in that situation. And to watch other teachers teach gives you that awareness of how many different approaches there are and how effective just stepping out of your own mindset of this is the best way to do it for me can be fundamental in making you a better teacher or the best teacher you can be for that class and that context. And I have that extreme fortune and pleasure of being able to do that with colleagues at NILE who come from around the world and bring their wealth of experience and also their own contextual knowledge. So peer observation is really what has changed my teaching for the better.
I see. Thank you very much. It's a really huge change from the beginning and so far. It's really, thank you, and a very important change, of course. Thank you very much, Thom. And my next question is about, again, your experiences in teaching. I'm sure that when you have webinars or seminars or conferences, probably you tell to the teachers or the listeners that over there always about your good experiences in your own teaching. But this time, I'm going to ask you vice versa. So can you tell us one of your bad teaching experiences in your career?
Okay. I'll put myself like that. I mean,
hard question.
Not hard to think of examples. I promise you. My worst, and not my worst, but one of my worst teaching experiences was in my very first ever lesson. So I was a language learner and decided to do a CELTA course. And so, although I'd done some little bits of language support for other people, I hadn't stood up in front of a class or my own class before. And in that experiential learning model of initial teacher training courses, we'd been shown an activity in the morning and then asked to replicate it with our students in the afternoon. And the activity was one of these getting to know you warmer activities, which was, very simple. My name's Tom and I like something beginning with T. And so I modeled this and I turned to the person, the student next to me, and he said, my name's and I had no idea what his name was. I couldn't tell what letter it started. It was one of these consonant clusters at the start of a word, and I'm totally impenetrable. And then he couldn't complete the sentence, and I stood there in absolute terror, thinking, well, what do I do now? It's not supposed to go like this. You know, it's supposed to go with him giving an answer and me giving praise, and then we move on to the next person. And it was like a bucket of cold water thrown over me. I can't do this. I can't do this. Fortunately, something clicked to my mind, and I asked another student if they could do it, and they modeled, and then he learnt from their model, and then we were away. But I still remember that shock of panic of, wow, you're on the spot when you're teaching, and you can't expect your learners to give you the perfect answer every time. So that was a bad teaching moment. I also remember some really, probably more embarrassing for me than for the students, but those cultural misunderstandings, it being in settings where you do something and without realizing it or realizing it very quickly, that you've done something that's culturally inappropriate. One of them was when I was working in Chile, and I spent a whole year teaching this class, a lovely class, and I asked them for some feedback at the end of the course, and they said, well, one thing, if you want some feedback, if you want to know, when you hand out the handouts as you're going around the class, it's really rude in our culture to put it down on the desk in front of us. You should put it in our hands. And such a tiny little thing, and I didn't know that.
See.
And I said, I said to them, "You've let me teach you for a whole year. You've let me do this every lesson to give you your handout on the table in front of you without telling me, you know." And just that little thing, and I thought, oh, I wish you told me that in the first lesson rather than at the end of the year. And another one was the hugely embarrassing misunderstanding of when somebody was leaning forward to bow as a mark of respect, and because I've been in a Mediterranean country, I thought they were leaning forward to kiss me on the cheek. So that was an embarrassing cultural misunderstanding. So they're less kind of teaching faux pas and more cultural faux pas, but they're certainly memorable as painful experiences.
That's really great one, the last one. a lot. So thank you very much. Really, that's really funny and experiences about it, Tom. Thank you very much. But that was a good point. Is sometimes we misunderstand each other, as you see that about the cultural things, about the things that we haven't learned yet. So that's normal. But really, thank you very much for sharing these moments with us. Okay, so there is a question, Tom. Let me ask you it. Someone. All right. Here is it. What kind of face-to-face courses will be available in winter or in summer at NILE? Ugilo from Uzbekistan, I think.
Hi, yeah, Uloy. Well, a whole range of teach development courses available at NILE from the start of July through to the end of August. That's our open enrollment season. Travel restrictions permitting, you know, that's something we always have to keep in the back of our minds or the front of our minds at the minute. But if we're able to deliver the full range of courses, there'll be everything from the kind of language awareness courses I was talking about, advanced language and methodology, through to career development courses such as trainer development, becoming a teacher trainer, career specialization courses such as testing, evaluation and assessment, materials development in language teaching, content and language integrated learning courses, blended learning courses, video-based pedagogy, technology-assisted language learning, teaching English for academic purposes, prepare your students for IELTS courses, a real wide range of, we hope, something which matches for every teacher's need. And of course, you know, the philosophy at NILE is very much we teach students, we don't teach material or content. So we personalize, we make the course appropriate for the context of the participants. But one of the great things, of course, about face-to-face study travel experiences is co-construction of learning. I think one of the major differences between being a language teacher and being a teacher trainer is that as a teacher trainer, you have this opportunity to use the years of experience you have in the classroom in front of you, the different experiences and the different experience and the knowledge that your training room brings. And so rather than teaching a blank slate and you're the fount of all knowledge, you have a whole range of different experiences and ideas and examples and contextual practice that you can feed off and reflect on and throw back to people to consider for themselves. So it's a really great international mix at NILE in the summers.
I see. Thank you very much for the answer, Tom. It's, I think, really I think very useful and very enough information for the question. I think they got the point.
I would just make the point, Volkan, that that we don't run those open enrollment programs through the winter. But we do have these open enrollment online courses, which are fully tutored, small groups, international mix, and they are also based on that co-constructed learning principle of learning from each other, supported and mediated by the NILE teacher trainer. So that's a good option if you want a professional development opportunity in the winter months. I see.
There is will they stay in a host family possible? Is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have an accommodation department at NILE. So we have options of either residential accommodation, which is self-catering flats where you share a kitchen with 8 other course participants on the University of East Anglia campus. That's residential accommodation, or homestay, which is with a local host who opens the doors to their home, and you have a private single study bedroom and have breakfast and dinner with the family. So that's a great kind of linguistic and cultural immersion experience if you prefer that accommodation. And of course, there's all sorts of Airbnb opportunities and things like that if you want to find your own accommodation.
I see. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tom, for the answer. And so let me move to another topic. And as we know that, when we teach in the classrooms, probably in all classrooms, there are some weak students. And sometimes we really face difficult moments to involve them in our lessons. When you think about this one, what can you suggest to the teachers or about involving weaker students in their lessons?
Yeah, lovely question. I think it's always a challenge for us as teachers to get that right, to get that mix right, to think about what pace we're pitching the speed of our lessons at, what level we're pitching it at. Should we pitch it at the middle so as to be as inclusive as possible? Should we pitch it at the level of the strongest students so they're not feeling bored throughout that? Should we be pitching it so everybody's achieving? And I think, the answer is, well, it depends. It depends on the aims of your lesson. It depends on the mix of your group. It depends on the autonomy you're allowed within your syllabus and within your context. But I think it's also useful to think about, well, what makes the weaker students weak? Is it that the demands of the task are challenging for them, and that actually by breaking that down, by scaffolding the way we create our tasks and the way we expect them to respond, we're actually doing something that's good for all the learners, and actually we need to simplify the way we give instructions and the way we set things up and the way we give the scaffolding for it. I think it's also interesting to think about whether the weakness is in their output, but we're not giving them the chance to show their receptive understanding because the demands of the production are too high for them. So can we think of other ways in which the learners who don't have the strength of the output skills, the productive skills, can demonstrate their understanding? Can we do this through multisensory learning? Can we do this by allowing different opportunities for expression? Can they do that through pictures, through selection of correct answers, through physical response? Can we give them the sentence frames, the sentence heads to support their output, to scaffold their output? How can we support that output part of our classes that changes our perception of what weakness might be in the language classroom. I'm just going to shut the door behind me. Sorry, you've
sure, no
you mentioned
problem.
already it was. Oh.
All right.
Sorry. Yes, my oldest son has just left the door
No,
open
it's okay.
with the TV on. It proves it's live.
It's okay. No problem. It's okay. It's okay. All right then. Would you like to add anything else, or can I move to another question?
Yeah, please go on.
All right. So there is a question here. Let me look. His name was Tom. No. Okay, so there is another. Let me look in here. Here's a question. Really, management of heterogeneous mixed abilities is so challenging. How you assess them according their styles and needs in the class?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's similar to what we were talking about. Heterogeneous classes, multi-level classes are one of the biggest challenges that teachers face, particularly when we work in age-streamed educational contexts rather than ability-streamed placement contexts for learners. I think when we're talking about assessments, it's really important to see how well we can differentiate the intended learning outcomes. Can we think of this as breaking it down into statements like all students will be able to do this by the end of the lesson. Most students will be able to do this, and the stronger students will be able to do those two things and this additionally. So can we give opportunities for students to succeed, even if they're not all succeeding at the same level? The unfortunate implications of that are the time and the implications of time and workload and planning for the teacher. But I think that's the only way we can really differentiate in assessment terms with heterogeneous classes, is to think about what marks success for different levels within that group. Otherwise, we're, as far as I see it, the only alternative is to pick one level and go for that, and that doesn't seem fair to a heterogeneous class.
Exactly, not the fair for the other levels. All right, thank you very much, Tom, about it. All right, my next let's move to another question. It's about the language teachers. So I wonder what are you going to say about it. Can you tell us 5 adjectives that describe an effective language teacher?
Yeah, I like this question. It caused me pause for thought, and because there's an awful lot of adjectives that one could choose, and of course this is not exhaustive, and this is only personal. So I'm going to go for some that I think are important to me. The first one is an effective language teacher is trusted. I think it's really important that people feel empowered to do their job in their classroom, and not to be constantly micromanaged or have constantly someone looking over their shoulder, or constantly suspicion that they're not up to the job. So trusted would be my first adjective. I really believe in what we call at NILE roots and wings. Give teachers the roots, the resources, the support they need to do their job, and then give them the wings to fly with that and to be innovative and creative. But that's about trust. So effective language teachers are trusted to do their own job. Interested, I think this comes back to my point about language awareness. I think teachers who are interested in language make effective language teachers. Students can see when a teacher's enthused and interested and fascinated by language, and it's a fascinating topic, and something that I think that level of interest transmits to learners. Adaptable, my third adjective.
Yeah, third is adaptable.
We're always in situations where the plan goes out of the window, the context suddenly changes, a new student comes in, we don't have the resources, the internet goes down. That adaptability, I think, helps you feel that you're doing the best you can. You may not be perfect, but you're there, and you've got tricks up your sleeve, you've got alternatives you can come up with. That's certainly important. Reflective, we've talked about this already, the ability to look back at yourself. And empathetic is my last adjective.
Yeah,
really,
and the last
understanding
one.
what goes on in your students' heads, and responding to that if you can. I'm
I
not
see.
saying
Thank
that
you very
I'm
much.
all of those things, but I'd like to be.
Thank you. Wonderful adjectives to describe to effective language teachers. Thank you. All right, so let's move to another question. So, if you could have one superpower to use in the classroom, what would it be, and how would it help?
Yeah, I like this question again. They're kind of very, very thought-provoking. So I'm going to go for two. One's kind of flippant and one's a bit more serious.
All right.
I think the superpower that I would use would be teleportation. I think it would be
Ah.
amazing to be able to take your learners and just take them into another context, take them into a real life language use context. You could be fly on the wall in a market, in a boardroom, in a shopping center, in I don't know, a street scene, a concert, a football match. Being able to take your learners with you into language in use context, so I think would be an amazing superpower. And you can imagine everything you could do with teleportation. It would also
Exactly.
allow me to revisit some of my favorite places around the world without the carbon footprint of having to fly there. So I think that would solve a lot of the problems.
I see.
The other thing that's a bit more serious, I think, if I had a superpower to change something in education, and I was able to stop bullying in educational context, I think it's such a terrible terrible waste when a learner's safe space of an educational setting is harmed by the impact of bullying. And I think that if we could eradicate bullying from educational settings and know that it was a safe learning space for all our learners, that would be really transformational for many kids who suffer that. So that would be an amazing superpower to change people's lives.
Yeah,
I think. But
that's really
a little bit
great
heavy,
point.
but yeah. It would be
But
good.
that's a wonderful, really, really, really. That's a really important point that you mentioned here about being bullying. It's really, really important point, and it can be really, really nice to have a chance to change it and to, I don't know, maybe to, I don't know, to, to completely take it away. That was really, really good. All right, thank you very much.
It's a shame that it has to be a superpower to do that, but yeah.
Yeah, I see. Thank you very much for that one. There is another question. Let me look. What is the? Let me show you the question. Maybe you have just the answer for that one. What is the place of behaviorism?
Sorry.
What? No. It's okay. It's okay. This is not a problem, Tom. What is the place of behaviorism in the 21st century classes to? Let me look.
I think that's to me.
To him. Yeah, to you.
Yeah, what an interesting question. I mean, I'm sure the person who's asking the question is familiar with the idea of principled eclecticism and kind of the post-method condition, and the idea that we learn from a range of methods and approaches and methodologies, and we select the ones that are best for our context. And I also think that there's value in some of those unfashionable, derided activities based around repetition, and are based around drilling, and are based around memory, and are based around repeated practice. And I think that we can't simultaneously value automaticity, which is what fluent language use is, having those resources at your fingertips to be able to produce without extended thinking time. We can't simultaneously value that and to do away with the practice, the repetition, the memorization that comes from that is a lot of what behaviorism is based on. So I do think it has a place. It has a place in context within lessons, within particular lesson focuses to achieve particular lesson outcomes. But I certainly don't think it's of no value to the modern language teacher.
I see. All right. Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's move to another question. So here is the question. What do you find most frustrating and rewarding about teaching and learning?
Yeah. Okay. What should we start with? The glass half full or the glass half empty? Let's start with frustrating. I mean, I think, I guess the most frustrating thing as a teacher and also as a teacher trainer is the awareness of how much time pressure there is on teachers, on myself as a teacher and on the teachers that I work with. And all of the expectations of being able to capitalize on the interesting developments, the new ideas that just demand more time than teachers have when they have families, busy jobs, commutes to work, expectations on their time, marking loads, homework, assessment, just that realization that there's so much that goes on to be a good teacher. That it's frustrating that you don't have time for those passion projects, for those things that you would like to do in an ideal world. And I think that that can be frustrating to think, where do I find the time to do these things that I understand are good ideas and would help me develop, but where's the time going to come from? And it's so rare to have institutions which give time for reflective, critical, professional development. It's always expected to be done on top of everything else. And yes, maybe we'll get some funding, but we very rarely get time allowance to do it justice. So that can be frustrating, I think. And rewarding, it's just, it's what keeps me in the classroom. Although a lot of the work I do is management and development and projects. Every time in the classroom, I remember why I love teaching. It's those light bulb moments, it's making a difference, it's students coming out with language that they didn't have before and it becoming meaningful to them. And I think that's just a wonderful job to be in, to be able to professionally enable people to express themselves and to get better and to see that progress made visible. I think we're very lucky as teachers to have that power, and that's not even a superpower. That's a realistic everyday achievement if we're lucky.
I see. Yeah, we teach. What's your superpower? That kind of thing.
Exactly.
Really
yeah,
nice.
I knew I'd seen it on a t-shirt somewhere.
All right, thank you very much, Tom, about it. So, I know that you have lots of experiences in like in teaching and learning, and you have done lots of things in ALT worlds, and also you have written some books or worksheets or whatever, lots of things to do. And what can you suggest us to read about ELT?
Right, I'm going to suggest two oldies but goodies, and one very contemporary resource. As I started off with my kind of philosophy about language awareness, I'm going to signpost two really important books. One is Discover English by my colleague and mentor Rod Belytho and editor and friend Brian Tomlinson. Their Discover English book really invites you to look at language in a different way and to really consider what it is about this language that makes it so rich and so varied. And also in that same thread, Scott Thornbury's About Language book, Tasks for Language Teachers to really understand how language works, is just so rewarding. You can pick it up and dive into a different task, a different activity, and everyone will provoke you to think about language more deeply. So those two, I think, even though I think Discover English is still in print after 20 years, and About Language is probably also coming up for 20 years old, they're just really powerful, important books for language awareness. The third thing to read, I'd just like to flag up the Adaptive Learning in ELT blog by Philip Kerr. And it started off 7 years ago talking about adaptive learning and technology in education, but it goes into different subjects now with each new post and really broad subjects. But it's a really critical take on the world of ELT and the world of language learning. And it's really, I wanted to flag it up because it's one that always makes me think. It always, they're short articles, but they really make me think and not always agree. But always think critically about the content of them. And I think they're really valuable to have that kind of contemporary provocation to make you think and to make you have a new insight onto some of the things you've taken for granted or the things you haven't thought about. Philip Kerr is a fantastic writer and always well researched and well referenced. So adaptive learning in ELT blog.
All right. Okay then. Okay, Tom. And by the way, do not worry about it. I will write the book's name and the blog's name. What has Tony mentioned here? Tom mentioned here, and after the session, and then you can have a chance to look at the books and check the blog too. Okay. So, thank you very much for your suggestions. Would you like to add anything else?
Well, I'm too humble to say anything that I've written, so no.
Okay,
let's go with those three.
All right, okay. There are, let me look here. There are some questions here. I will come your questions, but just let me ask my one or two questions to him, and then I will divert your questions. There are two questions from our listeners to you. And let me first ask you my question, and then I will ask their question, Tom. And here is my question: when you think about the 5 W's and how, like who, what, where, when, and why, and how, what questions come to your mind about ELT world?
Yeah, I mean this could be an hour answer, Volkan. Okay, so I'm going to keep it brief. So the who would be, who are the learners of English in the future? I'm really interested in the emergence of or the continued emergence of CLIL, language learning through content subjects. Are we learning language and content at the same time? The English medium instruction contexts where we know how much of tertiary study and academic journals are in English. Does that mean that's where the focus of language learning is going to be? So that who are the learners of the future is really interesting for me. Similarly, what should we teach when we teach language? We have the joy of being in a profession where we can potentially use any content to teach language. Language is the vehicle for all content. So what's the content that's most relevant? And does that lead us towards CLIL ideas? Does that mean we need to be much more content-based in the language we teach? Can we personalize it? So what's being taught when we teach language? Where would obviously for me be about digital opportunities? Where will the learning of the future take place? Will we see the continued growth of online, or will the post-pandemic lead to a pendulum swinging back to face-to-face, which I kind of hope in some ways, but I know that online learning is here to stay in many contexts, and we need to adapt and adopt best practice or good practice for that. When are we going to get time for teachers to have professional development opportunities that's not just something that's done in addition to the day job and all the other day jobs?
I see.
Why don't we trust teachers to assess? We trust teachers to learn. We trust teachers to teach. Why don't we trust teachers to assess their own learners? It seems like a real, an unfair challenge that we say, well, you can do this effectively, you can teach effectively, but when it comes to assessment, you need to be told what to do and what to use and what marks to give. I think teachers should be trusted with assessment much more. And how do we cope with the globalized world in which English is a must, but also preserving plurilingualism and cultural identity and linguistic identity not being lost? I think that's a really interesting challenge for the future. We know that languages are disappearing. Having lingua franca languages that everybody has to learn are probably going to hasten that loss. So I think, really interesting one. Don't have the answers at all, but things that I'd like to be the questions.
I see. Thank you very much for this wonderful answer for this question. It's really tough. One of the toughest question, I think, in my question, but that's really great. Thank you very much, Tom, about it. So there are, by the way, I've just only 2 questions left, but our listeners have questions for you. What do you think about Crescent's recent claims that reading book must be the main tool in language learning? Wow. No, it's really difficult, I think.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's hard to argue against the value of exposure, extensive exposure, and considered exposure at your own pace, which comes from reading. And I think a lot of my beliefs about language awareness and for mining texts for the language value and for the learning value and for the linguistic subtleties of them is probably best done through reading. I think maybe there's an extreme within that words like only and the best don't necessarily help teachers to deal with the demands of their curriculum, their target learning outcomes. But I do think that exposure, extensive reading is, once you get to a certain level, is probably the best self-guided way to develop your linguistic range and proficiency and understanding. So yeah, I'm sitting on the fence a little bit, but I can see why he's making the claim. I just perhaps don't think the superlatives involved are necessarily the most helpful.
I see. Okay. Thank you. There are also some comments about the topic, but that's okay. Thank you, Tom, about it. And let me ask you another one. Can you suggest some resources where to find authentic material?
Yeah, well, of course, the answer to many of these questions is it depends. I mean, authentic for whom? And I'm going to give a shout out to one of the resources on the NILE members area, which is authentic videos produced by Digital Learning Associates. There are 30 very short 2-3 minute videos, authentic in content, so they're taken from real life settings and real life production, but they're graded for CEFR level. So there's a great set of authentic video materials. Depending on the level of your learners, I think that judicious use of mainstream media for its accuracy in language use, but also for the variations between genres that we find between different news outlets, I think can be really valuable source of authentic material. There's a lovely website called TrueTube, which I used to use a lot, truetube.co.uk, I think, which has a lot of authentic video resources for teaching quite controversial topics, gangs, crime, teenage problems, all of those things that we don't find in mainstream course books. That's some really nice authentic video content there. And yourself, be your own authentic source of materials. Your life is authentic, their lives are authentic.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the authentic resource.
I see. All right. Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you for the answer. All right, then. I think I'm going to ask you the last question of tonight. I think my last question. Okay. So are you ready for it?
Yes, go on.
All right. Okay, then. Here is the last question. What is your motto?
Do you know, it's I'm not very good with mottos. I always seem to forget them. I hear other people's and think, oh, I wish I had that motto. And in the theme of that, I'm going to come back to Turkey and an experience that I had when I was working there and seeing something on the wall of a school that stuck with me ever since. And it's the quote from Kemal Atatürk, which says, "Teachers are the one and only people who save nations." And seeing that on the wall of the dining room of a school was really powerful for me, just to think that all the teachers and all the students walk past that every day, and that's the kind of empowerment and respect
Yeah,
for teachers that I wish was shared.
I
So
see.
sorry it's not mine, but it's a pretty amazing statement.
Thank you very much. That's a brilliant one. Yeah, from Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. Thank you, Tom. And Eileen hocam, she asked something. Can we get which is written? I mean, I just try to find her writing. She asked about, can we get your answer which is written? So we can't give the answer as a written, but you can listen the session again, so you can take it. So we can't write down anything about it.
Okay, here's
About
another
the
suggestion then. So one more website, one I've been using recently is called Otter, like the animal, otter.ai. And if you put a video into Otter or an MP3, an audio track, it gives you a transcription. It's not bad. It's pretty close. So that's a really nice tool to have at your fingertips.
Wow.
If you've got a video and you want to make a transcript of it without typing it out, otter.ai.
Auto.ai, I see, it's wonderful. Okay, so I will write it down too. Info about the authentic materials, yeah. And he mentioned a website and tools like auto.com, you said?
So
About
otter.ai is the transcription tool, the automated transcription tool. What do I talk about? TrueTube.co.uk, the ready to run video collection on the NILE members area.
I see.
And then using mainstream media for the range of different text types across the different publications.
Okay, thank you very much for this useful site and tools too. All right, that's all my questions from Teacher Talks, Tom. And before ending our live sessions, would you like to add anything else to the end of the session?
Well, I'm going to ask you a question, Volkan. You've been asking the questions. Where did you come up with the idea for your Teacher Talk series? You've done so many now. What was the original inspiration?
The original inspiration, actually, I've been thinking to do such a kind of things for a long time, and so I was just thinking that, can I do it, or when can I start it, or how can I start it, or and I was also thinking that lots of people are doing this kind of things, like this kind of sessions or webinars or I don't know, seminars or a kind of sessions like this, and I was thinking that why not me about it. So, and actually for some people the having this COVID-19 situation is a really kind of bad thing, but I think the change this bad into something good for myself, because it gives me a chance and it gives me a kind of a power to start this session, really. And I started it, why not? And so it's a kind of the old people and all the teachers and everybody, they're sitting at home, and I can't sit at home like this, and I was always thinking that I should do something and I had to do something, and then I decided to kind of things like this, and every week having educator from ELT world and asking some questions and discussing and about some personal, most of them are personal ideas, and personal ideas to share and bring them together with from different countries. And maybe when you see that from lots of people join from different parts of the world, and I'll give a chance to know about each other and to learn about each other, and it's a really great point. And by the way, it's a really great opportunity for most of people to listen a very, very important educators, or if like a teacher trainers or educators or just a teacher, English teacher, just share their ideas and give them a chance to say or to transfer what they think to us, and we have a chance to learn also what's happening in, for example, England, or what's happening in, let's say, India, or what the teachers are doing in, let's say, Portugal or Argentina or Mexico or in this part. And it goes on like this. And when I was started, by the way, thanks to my wife, she found the name of Teacher Talks. I was thinking that what should be the name of it, and she gave me this idea. So it's a really great for me. Thank you very much to her for the name of the session. So, and I've started this from this at 78 weeks ago, and it still continues. I'm planning to do it until 100, and after 100 I'll have different ideas, and I hope I can do that too. So it
Well, you
goes on like
deserve
this,
huge congratulations for that, and I think it really
thank you.
it embodies that spirit of giving something back to a profession that I believe in very much. So hearty congratulations. It's a great service to the ELT community.
Thank you very much. I'm really, really happy to hear this from you and other people. It motivates me more and more. So every week I try to do something more, and I try to give more to the people around the world. And if we can manage to, make them learn, or make them, to get something from these sessions, it's really, really important and very precious for me and for the others too, I think. Yeah.
And for me too. It's been a real pleasure talking to you and thinking about your questions. This has been my continuing professional development, just thinking about your questions in advance. So thank you.
It's really great. Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure. It's really a pleasure. It's really great honor to have you, Thom, and in Teacher Talks. All right. So, and that's all from Teacher Talks tonight, I think. And Thom Kiddle was with us. And thank you very much again, Thom, for your time, for your ideas, for your suggestions. Especially, I just mentioned time, but your precious time. Thank you very much. I know that you are very busy, and you shared and you spent your time with us. That was really important for us. Thank you very much. And also, I'm happy to our audiences, they have a chance to listen to you. And also, I would like to thank you one more time to you. You give this chance to us to listen to you. That was really important. That's all. And from us to Teacher Talks. And we will be here next Monday at the same time, on the same day. As you know, that is Teacher Talks time. And the date. So until next time, take care of you, and peace, everybody, and goodbye, and bye-bye, Thom, and bye-bye. Take care of you. See you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.